What's up, my friends? Tay Nix here, back again on the road in Medellin, Colombia. I wanted to do a follow up. Actually, the title of this video is why I decided to live outside the US. Now, this is 27 odd years ago. It started really like it does for a lot of people with just a strong need to travel, not a desire to go see the world, but an absolute need that a lot of young men feel. I was in my mid 20s, early 20s, to make sure that I wasn't the sucker at the poker table. Now, there's a big dose of adventurism mixed in that. Any healthy young lad is going to want to go adventure and see the world. I had a chance to teach in Europe. And if you've spent any time in Europe, and I did, I hit the road. I taught in a boarding school in the Swiss Alps. Good gig if you can get it. But I made every effort, and I had a motorcycle, and I got a Euro rail pass, and I traveled, and I ran with the bulls, and I toured Spain, and I went around Eastern Europe, and I did as much. I saw as much of Europe as you could possibly see in an 11-month period, where I was also working full time. Teaching jobs are wonderful, right? Because you get just unbelievable amounts of time off. And the world opened up to me. There was no possibility that I could go back and sort of do the status quo thing and figure out where I could spend the next 25 years of my life in an office. And I'm very glad I didn't. After Europe, I jumped on a sailboat, took some of the money I saved, jumped on a sailboat, ended up in Cuba for a little while. That's at the time it was illegal, I think. I'm not sure. For sure, the U.S. government knows anyway. Um, and I just had adventures ever since, really. I mean, I'm still on that same journey. And what I want to say about the reasoning for not living in the U.S. now, with the benefit of 27 years of hindsight, um, is that what's taking place in the U.S. is so much bigger than I think can be captured in a tweet or a newscast. Obviously, the utter corruption and utter falseness and duplicity of mainstream media is complete at this point, right? If you're watching Rachel Maddow because that's where you get your opinions from, or you're watching Fox News because that's where you get your thinking from, obviously you're jaded. And my point to folks who find this channel, who care about this topic, who would watch this video is, um, it's very hard to convey, I think, to the average person in the U.S. And by average, I don't even mean average in the U.S. I mean somebody who's making good money, maybe has a family, set up with a house and a car and a neighborhood and a community and all the rest. It is very hard to convey to people just how much of a feedlot dynamic and mentality has taken over in the U.S. versus the places that I've found myself. Not always. Right now, I'm in a big city. I'm in Medellin. Spectacular, world class, first class, excellent, high quality living for about a third the cost of anything that you would pay in a major city in the U.S. Probably less. The medical system and the medical care here is top tier, and it's 90% less. There's no insurance bullshit. You pay out of pocket. I can get seen right away on time. I don't wait around in a waiting room and have to fill out 27 different forms giving the same information over and over again. I don't get hit with a bunch of insurance bills that nobody told me I was going to have to pay 6 months down the road. Everything is tip top. But it's more than that. It's more than what folks in the US and Canada and Western Europe really realize about what has happened to life in these countries. And I know this because from time to time I do go back to North America, and I find myself just shocked and aghast at what is taking place and how supine and completely unperturbed most people are. Now, on the flip side, and to be fair, there's a ton of great stuff going on in North America. It's a beautiful part of the world. Seems like North America got the most natural blessings of anything. I'm not the only one who thinks this. If you've traveled the world, you know how incredible the actual land is. Just living there is such a blessing. And obviously, there's tremendous opportunities for business. But even then, right, you are less free in North America than you think you are. You are more free in other parts of the world to do all kinds of things. And when I say that, I said a few minutes ago, the feedlot personality, a feedlot mentality that has taken over. Chickens that are raised in a feedlot, some percentage of them think it's a good gig. The farmer protects you, no animals come and eat you, you get fed, you get free health care, right? They inject you with a bunch of stuff. You don't really know what it is, but it seems all right because you're still, right? You're strong and you're healthy. And there's no evidence that you're being groomed for slaughter. Nobody has seen that. None of the chickens around you will tell you that, like, yeah, by the way, they're going to take you in this room and chop your head off and rip your feathers out and that somebody's going to eat you. Nobody says that because there's no evidence of it, right? Anybody who did disappear, well, they didn't live to tell the tale. So even if you heard rumors, right, some of the chickens obviously figure out how to live quite well at the expense of other chickens. Maybe they got a racket, some kind of gang going, right, where they can extort the food that is given to a group of chickens in payment for protection, let's say, right? What has happened in the US and the incredible apathy that people feel toward the loss of freedom, the loss of liberty, the invasion on every level of every part of your life is not new. This has been coming for at least since I've been aware of this and since I cared about this as an adult, since I came of age and understood how the monetary system works, and sort of especially the big turning points of obviously 2008 from a financial point of view. Nothing was ever fixed in the financial system in 2008. The people who created that problem got not just bailed out, they got paid bonuses in the tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. And when everything came out in the wash, it wasn't the SEC that was supposed to be there to protect you. It was the SEC who created it and signed off on it. And so the mentality in the US, especially, that the government will protect you and everything's going to be okay. And if there's a crash, the Fed will step in and print money to make sure that you're whole, right? But even long before that, right? Even that was on the horizon for a long, long time. In September 2001, no plane hit the Pentagon. It doesn't matter what you think about that statement. There was no plane wreckage. World Trade Center 7 did not fall down because of an office fire. It was blown up from the inside, clearly. And so, again, it doesn't matter what you think about those statements. My experience talking to folks in the US about those two very touchy topics is that nobody cares what the truth is. It's very odd. There's an old saying, I forget who coined this. Probably a lot of people have come to this conclusion, but whoever coined this aphorism, it's amazing what you can get a person to believe when their salary depends on them believing it. What it means that no plane hit the Pentagon is that people on the U.S. government were on the inside in the U.S. government were in on that. What it means that World Trade Center 7 fell down, right, because of an office fire, but was actually blown up and descended in free fall, is that people were in on it. It was a setup, obviously. And I've talked to really, really smart people in the US who refuse to see it. An old friend of mine from high school graduated with honors from a top legal school program in New England. I won't say where. Actually, I don't remember where. I do remember where. Was hired by a top tier legal firm in Manhattan. Has been general counsel for big time companies that you would have heard of that I won't repeat here. And when she talked about the fateful day in September 2001, when she was either late getting to the office or, right, she was coming out of the subway in New York, when all hell broke loose, and managed to obviously get away and get back home to her family and survive and right unscathed. Um, I said, obviously, there's very, very suspicious doings on that day, no? And her answer was, yeah, but I read the commission report. Like she accepted that this was what the government said it was because the 9/11 commission said so. Now, this is a really, really intelligent woman. But if you're going to make a ton of money from your government starting wars and killing, blowing up buildings and all the rest, you're just not going to think very deeply about what's true. And so my point in this video is it's not to beat up on anybody, but to point out that if you go along with what are obviously lies that have taken place in the US, they become your lies. And my point to people, to anybody who will listen, is there are consequences to what the United States government, which is different than the American people, there are consequences to what has been done in the last 25 plus years. There are going to be real consequences. And right now, as we're recording this, there's all kinds of violence going on, or so we're told. It's very hard to know what's true and what's going on, but probably there's some unrest going on in LA. I have no doubt that part of that unrest is being fueled by provocateurs. Let's be honest, right? It does appear to me that several million people probably have crossed the border, undocumented, unregistered, with no tracking, with no idea what these people are in for and what they're up to. It seems likely to me that some of them probably are very interested in causing trouble in whatever way they can. And it's just not going to be that difficult to cause real havoc. And whether the trouble in LA gets squashed, which probably it will, but at what cost, or whether worse is yet to come, the fact is there's too many things that too many people are either afraid to tell the truth about or simply profit from lying about and playing along with, for there not to be a big crack up. I don't know of any time, I can tell you from personal experience that in my own life, I haven't gotten away with a single lie ever. And I don't think that I'm unique in that regard. Anything that I tried to get away with as a young person eventually bit me in the ass. And the idea that you have tens and hundreds of millions of people playing along with the lies that the US government has told about everything from September 11, 2001 on through to the nonsense of the 2008 crack up to the very recent shenanigans in 2020 and the so-called solution for that, which has caused untold suffering among people who trusted the science, that there's not going to be a reckoning because of that is just pure fatuous fantasy. And so that's point number one. There's going to be a reckoning and there's going to be consequences. You can count on that. And so if you understand that there's going to be serious consequences and you're not really to blame for what has happened, but you got to kind of get on with your life and protect your loved ones, your family, your wealth, your legacy, then probably it makes sense to make sure that you have some kind of outlet, some kind of escape hatch, some kind of plan that gets distance between you and the most dangerous people on the land, on the planet, which is your home government. That's what we do here. That's what I try to make clear to people. That's what I talk about in these videos. That's what I try to provide for you, both as an example of somebody who's done it, but also as somebody I enjoy teaching and talking about. The only way to really master a subject is to teach about it. And so I've put together all kinds of materials you can see in the description below this video. I have a free download, the Bulletproof Plan B. It's free for now, at least. And I penned a book about my own journey called The Secrets of the Expat Adventure. This is about my own story, about sort of why I did what I did, where I went, how I did it, how I ended up just having an excellent, it's a tremendous story of struggle, but also of great victory in the end because of what I was able to achieve. And also, obviously, hopefully serves as a bit of an inspiration to other people. But the second point that I want to make in this video is it's almost impossible to convey to people who won't go look for themselves just how good life is outside the mayhem and the cacophony of angry political rhetoric and partisan politics and just the madness of daily chaos and the bickering and the shouting at the top volume about you name it, right? Doesn't matter what the topic is, right? The irreconcilable, I mean, the tragedy, of course, of what is taking place in the US is, I mean, to some degree, right, you could look at both sides of the argument and both political parties, not on every issue, because by and large, there's just a lot of stupid people who think that the world works a way that it doesn't, right? This is partly also the benefit of living an international lifestyle is you can see the madness in the US for what it is. It's easier to see your own people and your own culture and society from outside than it is to take sides within it and end up defending something that's a completely idiotic idea. Obviously, there are entire generations of people, probably numbering in the hundreds of millions in North America at this time, with just dumb ideas that won't work, that don't work, that have been tried before, and that ended in absolute catastrophe. And yet, if you don't know that, because you either haven't seen enough of the rest of the world, or you're just not interested in history, or you're not interested in the kind of discussion that would help bring to light the kind of trouble that is in store for a country that is so far off the rails, then you're doomed to repeat it, as the saying goes, right? Those who don't understand history are almost certainly doomed to repeat it, and history does rhyme. And right now, we're going to see that play out. I'm not cheering for this. I don't hope for the utter destruction of North America by any means. In fact, just the opposite. I would like to see, very badly, would like to see some cooler heads and some more sanity prevail. But right now, there's no reason to be particularly upbeat about positive change. The monetary system is a fraud. Tons of people are going to lose hundreds of billions of dollars because the whole thing is a Ponzi. It's a scam. The debt-based monetary system is going away. And if you have all your money in a debt-based monetary system and you're counting on being paid by that, you're going to suffer. The dynamics that lead to this much polarization and this much bickering and potential violence, ask yourself, what would it take for real mayhem to erupt on a large scale? What about an assassination? God forbid, right? So we're at the ragged edge of whatever's going to unfold. It is coming. And the best, smartest thing you can do is to give yourself a few options outside of the blast radius of your home country. And so that's what I've made available for you, and that's what I hope you'll take advantage of. Trying to summarize and reiterate one last time, it is impossible for people who live in crowded cities with traffic and commutes, even if you work from home, but you're still surrounded by people who, right, have bizarre political slogans posted in their front yard that are contrary to your political party's beliefs. I've seen it. The toll that takes, where like a portion of the year I live in a house that I built on a mountaintop on a lake. There's indigenous people that walk up and down the path and get firewood and some building materials, stones of a certain variety, and harvest coffee. The animals actually, at nighttime, there's a nocturnal animal called the coati. Sometimes they come right up to the bedroom, right, peek inside the bedroom windows. In the morning when I have breakfast, colibri, hummingbirds come hover, right, while I'm having my tea and looking out at the forest, listening to it costs me less than the price of a year's mortgage on a normal single family home in the US to build a first class property and live in nature. It's hard to explain to somebody on a video like this, and I'll have my assistant drop some B-roll in so you can see what I'm talking about. It's hard to explain to people what it's like to live a sane, beautiful, connected life in nature, where nobody's trying to argue and yell and scream at you, where you're not constantly bombarded with messages about whatever the flavor of the month political candidate is trying to sell, which itself is based on more lies and more fraud and more debt and more nonsense, as everybody barrels toward the edge of the cliff. It's hard to imagine just living a really delightful existence in another culture that knows nothing about the troubles that you're embroiled in right now and that you're up against, living in the United States. Sort of like living life the way it was meant to be lived. Obviously, I'm aware I'm very privileged, well educated. I took advantage of the opportunities that were put in front of me. And I made the decision that I wasn't going to be stuck in the humdrum of North American rat race kind of living. But my point to you on this channel is you could do that too. Today, it's easier than it's ever been to go find some place, and it doesn't have to be at the ends of the earth, right? Like Patagonia and Argentina and Uruguay, in this area in the Pampas, and like the southern cone of South America is colloquially referred to as the ends of the earth, right? The fin del mundo. You don't got to get on a plane for 12 hours and fly to Argentina. Colombia is a 2-hour flight from Miami. It's as pleasant as it can be. And you're living, we ain't exactly suffering here in Medellin. I'll do another video as a follow-up to my medical treatment and care and checkups that I got. I have a separate chapter to talk to you about that, but I won't do it here. But my point is, there's tremendous living to be had, and it's never been easier. What you need most is somebody who can show you and talk you through and guide you and walk you through the various things that you need to be aware of, so you don't waste too much time or end up blowing a bunch of money because you didn't know how to do it properly. That's what I've put together for you. You can get that for a limited time longer, because I'm eventually just going to turn this into a paid product. My Bulletproof Plan B. Please check it out. You'll find that in the description. You can sign up, just drop your email, and it will be sent to you. You can download it directly. And it will give you a good basis for understanding what you need to do, and also give you some concrete, rock-solid steps that you could take to make sure that whatever chaos is coming, that you're really prepared, and really not just prepared, but that also there's no reason for you to be ruined by what's coming. That is a choice at this stage of the game. There's a whole world out there where you could end up having your best life because you turned your back on some of the nonsense and really destructive stuff that's coming down the pipe. That's enough out of me. Thanks for watching. Remember, we like to say here, right, the best way to avoid the coming chaos of the rest of the 2020s and beyond is to get out of town. We can help you do it. Please click below. Check out the free report, and I'll talk to you again. I'll be back with more good stuff. Thanks.